What's going on, baseball fans? So as we head into the 2020 season, I wanted to go over some teams that could be disappointing this year. Let's not waste any time. Let's get to the list. At number 5, I have the Cincinnati Reds. Let's start off with the team that I have winning the NL Central this year, the Cincinnati Reds. I love their team. They had a really good offseason, bringing in guys like Nick Castellanos, Mike Moustakas, Shogo Akiyama. They got good pitching, a decent offense, and a pretty good bullpen. I think they have what it takes to win a division in a tight NL Central. However, I can't help but notice some question marks. Sonny Gray year to year has been pretty inconsistent. Luis Castillo really only had his first good season last year, and Trevor Bauer was terrible after being traded to the Reds last season. In the offense, Joey Votto had a down year in 2019. Can he bounce back? Akiyama was very good in Japan, but will that translate to the major leagues? Can guys like Aristides Aquino and Eugenio Suarez keep up the monster numbers they put up last year? The bullpen wasn't as effective in the second half of 2019. Will that carry over into 2020? Overall, I think the Reds will have a good team, but I can't ignore some of these question marks. At number 4, I have the Los Angeles Angels. Here's a team that I personally don't have making the playoffs, but I have seen a lot of people picking them to win a wild card spot or even the division. I think they definitely have the chance to win a wild card, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Sure, they added Anthony Rendon for the offense to go along with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, which is downright nasty, but it's very well known that they don't have any pitching. They did add Julio Teheran and Dylan Bundy to go along with Shohei Ohtani, but how much can they really contribute? And getting back to Ohtani, at the moment he'll only be pitching once a week, and he's coming off Tommy John. For me personally, I wouldn't find it disappointing if the Angels didn't make the playoffs, but I think a lot of people would be disappointed. At number 3, I have the Chicago White Sox. Similar to the Angels, the White Sox have a lot of hype this season. They had an awesome offseason, bringing in Yasmani Grandal, Dallas Keuchel, Edwin Encarnacion, Steve Cishek, and Gio Gonzalez. The offense should be really good with Grandal and Encarnacion joining Yohan Moncada, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson, and top prospect Luis Robert. However, even though the pitching does have Lucas Giolito and Keuchel at the top, there's not much behind them, and the bullpen is pretty thin behind Alex Colomé, Aaron Bummer, and Steve Cishek. The White Sox were also terrible defensively last season, ranking as one of the worst in the majors. The White Sox should be very fun to watch this season, but don't be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. At number 2, I have the Atlanta Braves. This is one where I might get some flack. However, don't get me wrong, the Braves are very good. They have some awesome pieces like Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, Dansby Swanson, and they brought in Marcell Ozuna and Travis d'Arnaud this offseason. There's some great pitchers such as Mike Soroka and Max Fried, and they also brought in Cole Hamels along with former Giants closer Will Smith for the bullpen. However, there are some things that worry me a little bit about the Braves. First off, they lost Josh Donaldson, who was one of the best bats in the entire league, and sure, they brought in Ozuna, but he's no Josh Donaldson. They also did bring in Cole Hamels, but he's been dealing with arm issues going back to spring training. Mike Soroka was fantastic last year, but can he keep it going in 2020? Sean Newcomb dealt with injuries last year. Mark Melancon was diagnosed with a rare muscle disorder a couple years ago and wasn't really spectacular last season. The guy they brought in for the bullpen, Will Smith, was placed on the 10-day IL for COVID. Can Shane Green and Luke Jackson have repeats of good seasons? Overall, I really like the Braves, but with that NL East being so tight, I think it's possible they could miss out on the division and even the postseason altogether. At number 1, I have the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, this one might catch me the most flack and get me a lot of downvotes on this video, but let me explain. Like with the Braves, don't get me wrong, I think the Rays have a good team good enough to get a wild card spot. However, when I see a lot of people picking them to win the division over the Yankees and even win the World Series altogether, I can't help but think these people might end up being very disappointed. I mean, even myself included somewhat. With the Rays, I like their team, but I think they lost a good amount this past offseason. First off, they lost Tommy Pham, who's a 3-4 win player, and in my opinion, a glue kind of player, a leader, and a catalyst atop the lineup. He does so many good things offensively, gets on base, and plays the field well. They also lost their catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, who is being replaced with a guy in Mike Zunino, who can hit some homers, but he barely gets on base. They also brought back Hunter Renfroe in the Tommy Pham trade. Again, this is someone that can hit for power, but he doesn't get on base all that much either. As for the bullpen, they still have some good pieces, but they traded away a very good arm in Emilio Pagan, and with Nick Anderson slated to take over the majority of the ninth inning duties, how will he be in a full season as closer? Then there's the starting pitching, which is easily one of the best on paper heading into 2020. However, I worry a little bit about Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell, who were both dealing with injuries last year. As for Glasnow, sure, he was very good last year, but it was only 12 starts, and before last year, he hadn't really done all that much, and he really only works off 2 pitches. I'm not saying he's bad, but can he keep up the dominance he showed last year? And then there's Charlie Morton, who had a career year last year, but he's coming off a career high in innings, and he's not getting any younger. To me, there's just a lot of question marks with this team. I know they've won at least 90 games in the last 2 seasons with one of the smaller payrolls around, but before 2018, they hadn't won more than 80 games since 2013. Overall, I think this team will do well and absolutely have the potential to make a playoff run, but I think they have the potential to be disappointing as well. So those are the teams that I think could be disappointing this year. Tell me your thoughts down below. Tell me some teams that you think could be disappointing this year. But that's all I got for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.